welcome a fresh conversation about disability. We're going to do things a little bit differently today so that my co host, Gabby Kaplan Mayer, can sit on the other side of the mic today as a guest. And Gabby will be joined by Robin Fradkin Matthews, and they will talk with me about their work at Whole Community Inclusion, J Kid Philly, and their new children's book, which I'm so excited about, in My Kehillah. But before we do that, this past year has been challenging. That's just an understatement for sure. But it's also opened up possibilities and new ways of connecting, learning, and being part of the greater community. Gabby and I recognized these opportunities and created Everyone's Welcome in May 2020. Everyone's Welcome has brought together people around disability and mental health concerns so you can meet some of the people we have gotten to know over the course of our years as parents, professionals, and advocates. Our hope is that Everyone's Welcome brings people together, people living with disabilities and mental health conditions, and those who love them, researchers, advocates, and professionals who can bring their stories to a new audience. Our guests have diverse experiences and perspectives on so many topics about disability and mental health, and we've created a vehicle for them to share their stories with all of you. Everyone's Welcome is a collaborative production of Whole Community Inclusion at Jewish Learning Venture and Inclusion Innovations. Everyone's Welcome is captioned, so all you need to do is just click on the CC icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, click on subtitles, and that will get the captions up for you. Also, we invite your questions and comments and ask you to use the chat feature for comments and questions. We're recording Everyone's Welcome, and you'll receive the link in the email that you shared when you registered. We invite you to share this and every episode with the people in your life. So let's get started. And we want to welcome our guests too on Facebook Live this week. It's just great to see so many people. Okay, here we are. I'm going to introduce our guest. Gabrielle Kaplan Mayer is an experienced Jewish educator. She's worked as an education director, curriculum writer, teacher, author, and youth director and slash advisor in various capacities for over 20 years. At Jewish Learning Venture, she works as the acting co-executive director. Gabby also runs an award-winning Shabbat family education program called Celebrations at Congregation Mishkan Shalom for children with disabilities and their families. She also directs Whole Community Inclusion at Jewish Learning Venture. Her most recent book, The Little Gate Crasher, is a memoir of her great uncle who overcame society's prejudices about dwarfism to lead a remarkable life. Among other books, she's also written The Kitchen Classroom, a children's cookbook designed for children of all abilities. Gabby holds a BFA in theater and creative writing from Emerson College and an MA in Jewish studies from the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. And I'm going to introduce Robin Fradkin Matthews. After spending 15 years as an English professor, Robin joined Jewish Learning Venture so that she could contribute to the enriching lives of families in the Philadelphia Jewish community. Originally from Boston and having earned a BA from Wheelock College and an MFA from Emerson College, Robin is a J Kid Philly parent who also teaches in the K through first grade Bonim class at Temple Shalom in Broomall. She lives in Media with her wife and their 12-year-old son. Welcome, both of you, to Everyone's Welcome. I'm just so excited. I ordered my book when you first made the orders available, and I actually got to see it yesterday. It's phenomenal, and I love it. And we're gonna learn about it today, and after our conversation, our guests will tell you how you can order your own copy. So welcome, Gabby, Robin.
Thank you.
Gabby, we're going to start with you. What is whole community inclusion? We've just heard about it. Tell us about that, and then tell us what you do and what your goals are for the initiative.
Sure. So thank you, Shelly, for being the host today so I can sit back and be a guest. And it's so much fun to be here with my colleague, Robin. It happens to be her birthday today. So it's a very special day. And our whole community inclusion initiative is focused on making Jewish life meaningful and accessible for kids and teens with disabilities and their families. So the big picture of our Jewish Learning Venture agency is to make Jewish life, to make Judaism relevant, meaningful for all families in our greater Philadelphia area and hopefully beyond. But we know that, at least 20% of the population have some kind of disability, which could be a developmental disability, a learning disability, a physical disability, mental health issues, any combination of those. And so our work is really to make sure that we're providing the resources to help um, all of those families access Jewish communities. So I'll just describe the three different ways we do that. One is through professional development of our educators here in the greater Philadelphia area, of our teachers, of our education directors, early childhood directors, clergy, and we provide a lot of training and seminars with specialists. And then we also do a second way is providing just community awareness. We don't want only people with disabilities and their loved ones to be the ones advocating for inclusion and accessibility. We really want that to be something that all of us hold together and speak up about. And so, you know, doing Everyone's Welcome with You, Shelly, is a big way that we get the word out about important issues related to accessibility and inclusion. During JDAME, Jewish Disability Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month, we encourage every synagogue in the greater Philadelphia area to dedicate a service to an issue of disability inclusion and advocacy. And not just to do that in February, but to follow up all year round and make sure that through an inclusion committee, task force, just that continued disability awareness, that this is a topic in the congregation. And then we do a lot of direct supports to families. Through our JKid Philly program, which is designed to, engage families, all kinds of families, wherever they are in our 5-county area, raising Jewish kids. We do lots of fun programs. Of course, during COVID, they've been online programs. And we realized that families raising kids with disabilities might need extra supports to attend. So, if someone needs an ASL interpreter, we provide that. If someone needs some extra behavioral support, we can provide that. We've had occupational therapists come out to our programs to help with the kind of craft projects and mitzvah projects that we do. And most excitedly, we launched, Robin was very helpful in the design and the creation of this. We launched our jkidaccess.org website. So parents anytime can go to jkidaccess.org and find social stories about Jewish life and videos about Jewish life and lots of different kinds of resources. So we're working in those three different ways with the goal of making our Philadelphia Jewish community as accessible and inclusive as it can be.
Wow, I remember back years and years ago,
Yeah.
speaking in Philadelphia, and it's everything has evolved so very much, and it sounds like whole community inclusion and all those programs that are woven in
Mhm.
um, comprise a sized portion of the work that Jewish Learning Venture does.
Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
significant part of sort of our three arms of whole community inclusion, our JKid Philly, program, and our professional development for educators.
So good. And JKid Philly, or JKid Access, by the
Yeah.
way, is where we house Everyone's Welcome. We have our
Yeah.
own tab on that page, and you can go back and look at all of our previous episodes.
Mhm.
So it's really exciting. It's really exciting for my organization to partner with your organization. I just love it. So now we're going to turn our sights a little bit, in a big way, actually, to the book in My Kehillah. And Gabby, what are the ways that you created education about inclusion for all kids prior to the book being published, prior to writing this book?
Yeah, so we realized that, and not only did we need to create that most inclusive community to provide resources for kids with disabilities, but that if we weren't actually talking to all kids about disability awareness, that we couldn't expect them, to understand if a classmate needed some special kinds of accommodations or support. That when you don't talk about something and pretend like, oh, we should just all be nice, it's like you're not naming it. And then kids have questions or thoughts, and they don't have any space to talk about it. And I talk all the time about my own experience, growing up in elementary school in the 70s and 80s, where like that special education classroom was down the hall. We had nothing to do with the kids. We didn't see them, and no one even talked about it. We didn't know why they were in that classroom and we're in this classroom. So I think just being able to talk about it with kids is really important. And from our perspective, we want to bring forward all the Jewish values that teach us about inclusion. So for the last, I think, 5 years, we've created lesson plans, and they're on our website. They're on jkidaccess.org, that teachers can use from early childhood through high school, that use videos, that use Jewish texts, that use different kinds of prompts to have a full lesson plan, engaging about the Jewish values of inclusion. So that's something we've been doing, as I said, 5 years or 6 years. They're all available. They're free to download. And this made us realize, hearing from the educators, like thanking us for providing these resources, that people really needed tools. And so our team, which has a lot of creative folks, began to think, what about creating a children's book? And that led to In My Kehillah.
That is a huge step forward, and very, I mean, it's so logical to do that, and to take it to that next step,
Yeah.
which is just terrific. Um, Robin, we're gonna spend some time asking you questions and just having the conversation too. Um,
Oh,
Welcome. It's great to have you, and happy birthday
Thank you.
as well. So, Robin, tell us about how the book was created and how did you get involved in it?
Well, so I got involved, I sort of was involved, I think, from its inception. I think because my, colleagues and friends, we always struggle with, are they our friends? Are they our coworkers? But anyway, they're my friends, because they knew that I can draw and that that's something that I could do. And they also knew that I had a background in education and understood children and curriculum, that it would be a natural fit, to involve me in the process from the beginning, I think. So, that's how I got started with it. I think in terms of, I was in the brainstorming from the very beginning. So in terms of setting up how, we always knew Gab was going to write the story, and that how we would sort of continue to tell the story through illustration was sort of organically evolved as we were discussing it. There's a book series, a short series of books that I have read with my son since he was really little. And one of the things I loved about it was how they told the story through both text and illustration, where they had sort of a cast of characters that talked to each other about what was being talked about in the book. And it was a book he read when he was like 4 and 5 and 6, and it, worked with him as a little guy. And then there was another iteration of it, in a story continuing that continued to work that format. And so I just thought, let's sort of, let's emulate that style and create it for us. Because I think that what was great about it in that series was that there were lots of different relatable characters. So we spent a lot of time actually at the beginning developing the characters. And it's kind of funny, we gave them, I mean, we really did like, Gab and I both, you may have noticed, both have MFAs from Emerson. We're both writers. So we've workshopped lots of things. We didn't know each other there. We went at different times, but the idea of really workshopping your characters and giving them families and excuse me, and names and histories and whatever. So they have these whole rich lives. And then when we went back and looked at the book, we realized we really only actually used one of their names or two of their names, but we knew so much about them before we started writing. So, that was
Created
really
a
great.
Kehillah
Yeah, we
in
created
and
this
of
whole
itself.
Kehillah. They live in a Google Doc.
Oh, do you think we'll get to meet others at some point?
I mean, I do. I think, I think they're this great little team of kids that obviously are part of a bigger class. And they, they struggle and grapple with things together as, as a Kehillah does, right?
How did you, I'm just curious, I'm sure our everybody on the webinar is curious too. How do you workshop characters that you create? What was that process?
Like, how
What
did
was
we
that
create them themselves?
Like
Yeah.
the visuals, Robin.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah.
we started out thinking about style and which, what style of illustration we'd like, so that was our first thing. But then we sort of, we wanted to be mindful of diversity and make sure that they were representative of different ethnicities and different abilities and different, just different family structures and things like that. So whether or not it comes through in the story, we know that a couple of them use gender neutral pronouns and one of them is from Iran and a couple of them have a lot of siblings. And, so we had that in the back of our mind as we're recreating the things that they would say and the ways that they would interact with each other. We sort of knew where they were coming from as people. Oh, you're muted, Shelly. Shelly's muted.
Shelly.
Shelly's muted now forever. Oh, there she is. There you are.
I was trying. We'll put up the cover of the book in just a little bit. I was like thinking, oh, maybe I could just put that up there. So much for improv. Okay. Unmute. So, Robin, what were some of the challenges illustrating a book that depicts a lot of different kinds of kids, including children with sensory disabilities, which I thought was um, absolutely brilliant, as well as children with physical disabilities?
A couple of things for me. One was I didn't want to be too stereotypical, right? I didn't want to be like, yes, we're going to have a kid who uses a cane and a seeing eye dog. Like, it's just very stereotypical. And so one of the ways that we sort of worked with that was we knew we wanted to have a kid that had a service dog. But, we're using that service dog for a different reason. In our book, the service dog is for our character, Rami, who has diabetes. And so the service dog actually, I did a little research. I didn't know that this existed, but you can have a service dog that sort of sniffs the air for the smell of an elevated blood sugar coming from your breath. And that a service dog can be used for that. And so we were like, let's just, let's try to shift it a little bit. Let's not have the sort of cliche picture that everybody has when they see a working dog. So that was one thing. Another thing was, having them in different formats, having them sit in different ways. I said to Gabby said at one point, it would be kind of cool if, one of the kids was sitting in a beanbag chair. And I was like, okay, well, I have this desk, I can draw a desk and I have a table and I have to somehow work the beanbag chair into the classroom. So those sort of things, I wouldn't necessarily say they were challenges, but I think that they're definitely things that were on our mind in terms of making it authentically inclusive. Another thing we talked about was on one of the pages, on many pages, we have a class schedule on the Blackboard. And so to think about what kinds of things would be in this classroom's schedule. what kind of schedule are these kids going to need to look at? Just small details like that. What would be in the bins of toys behind them? What kinds of things are these kids playing with? So, just those details, things like that.
It was neat, Shelly. When Robin was asking me about the bins and what might they be doing at the tables, I had this flash of my son who has autism and intellectual disabilities and a lot of sensory needs when he was like in kindergarten, first grade, at a table playing with a neurotypical peer, doing puzzles and doing blocks. And I didn't tell Robin all that. I was just like, what about things they could manipulate and hold and maybe Legos? And then she drew this picture that was like, oh my goodness, I think I have a photograph of George, my son, that looks almost exactly like that.
Now
That's
I
just
actually
really
do have and I can show
cool.
you if it's easier for you. It's very easy for me to pull up.
I was going to say, Robin, do you want to pull up the website with the sample pages?
I can. I also have like the whole,
let's do that.
the pages that I can just show you if you're interested.
I think that would be great.
I think that would be great. I can show you the cover and I can show you the, some of the things I was just referencing. Is that something, Gab, you think?
Yeah, that would be great.
Right, so this is the cover. And I could tell you so much about each of these characters. And this is Rami, and they're from Iran. And this is Jason. Jason has autism, and this is Kai, and this is Maya and Sarah. Sarah has many siblings, and this is Penny, Rami's dog. So, we have lots of we have stories about them, right? Going through the pages, I'll show you like a classroom page. So this is a classroom page. We have all these, this is the chair, Jason sitting in that chair that Gabby had talked about. And here are some of the toys in the bins behind them. And then we have, this is the picture Gab was talking about with the kids playing Legos at a table. There's a,
oh, Robin, can you go back to that communication device?
Yeah.
We also realized that this was something that like a child might see another child using, but never have an explanation of what is that thing.
Yeah, so we try to include those types of things. We have the chalkboard page I was talking to you about. Here's one. So the schedule's just sort of behind them. And there's, it's very clear, and there's different things on the schedule with pictures, and they're working on it. They're working things out. This spread particularly was actually one that we workshopped pretty hard because we had a couple of sensitivity readers reading the drafts to make sure that they were,
And actually, Wendy, one of our readers, is on today. So thank you, Wendy, for reading for us and for all your feedback.
Yeah. So, this page where we sort of have, somebody struggling with, there's not much that Maya can do on this playground. And so having the kids sort of playing and then realizing, oh, she's not having that much fun. And then, well, maybe she can play with us. And then Maya saying, I can't actually do that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. So, the text is saying what's going on here. The text is saying these kids are showing kindness. They're showing chesed. And then the illustration is saying, here's actually the situation where these kids are grappling with what to do together.
And we love that in that bubble, as Robin said, this was we spent a lot of time and workshop this one. And that Maya, not all kids can be self-advocates, but that we were able to model that she's able to say to her peers what's happening for her.
What I really love about this illustration in particular is that you didn't create an illustration of an accessible playground, which would have, been a whole different take on this story. Accessible playgrounds, of course. But what happens when there isn't an accessible space? And that seems to address a lot of the objections that people may have, or looking at obstacles and saying, well, I can't engage with this person, I can't play with them because they can't do what I can do. And this just flips that all on its head and says, no, friends are friends.
Yeah, and
do something together.
Of course, the reality that we went, our synagogue professionals who are, educators, camp professionals, anyone who's reading this, to have that light bulb of like, oh my gosh, we need to create an accessible playground. And in the meantime, as we're getting there in all of our locations, we have to teach about how to still create different ways to play and be together.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is beautiful.
And
If there's more pictures, go ahead,
there are more
Robin.
pictures, and actually this is another one that was kind of interesting too, because not this one, but actually this one. So one of the comments we had was that, people, everybody keeps trying, everybody makes mistakes, everybody, can receive feedback. And, so we have, Maya, who's a, kid in a wheelchair and probably pretty tuned into, other kids with disabilities and what you do and don't do, but she, she can forget too. And she reaches down to pet Rami's dog and forgets. And, Rami's kind about it and just reminds her, and she's like, oh, sorry, I'll, do better next time. And it's just sort of an illustration. It's not, we're not trying to put out there that like, any particular person acts any particular way, that this is just what we're all striving for, regardless of our abilities or disabilities. That, just
Exactly.
we're grappling with things. We're in a Kehillah where it's not perfect and we're doing our best.
Mhm. It's really, again, that the focus in the inclusion world really is focused on belonging. And when I read the book, I was like, captured, captured that idea, that sense in no uncertain terms. There's no doubt that what readers will find from this book is that everybody wants to belong and that we're in it together. It's not something separate that we do.
Mhm.
So that was, I love the book. I just hope
Well,
everybody
thank you,
orders it
Shelly.
and shares
Thank
it.
you.
So I want to ask you both one last question,
Sure.
and want to remind everybody, if you have a question, please, 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 or a comment, please put it in the chat. We will explain in shortly how to buy the book, how to obtain this amazing book. So for Robin and Gabby, what are your hopes for the book?
I think my hopes, very much like, we were just talking about, that it really gets out there to classes of kids, and that it's a tool to help the adults, who may have their own uncertainty, learn along with the kids, that we, as you said, Shelly, that there's a place for all of us in the community, and that we're all learning. So I really hope that we can get it to as many adults who can share it with their kids as possible.
My hope is actually twofold. One, I hope that it reaches a community beyond the Jewish community, and that sort of that idea that, yeah, there are a couple of Hebrew words in there, but we all want to create community, whether you call it Kehillah or you call it community. It goes beyond, it's not, it's not just Jews who are trying to do this. We're really all doing it together.
Exactly.
And so that's one. And my other hope is that it really is a springboard for creating a larger library of stuff like this. I think that the time is really right for this. I think that people are really looking for this type of work to do with their kids. And I think that getting this out there and creating other things, with the same cast of characters or a different one, and creating a library that is more inclusive, as opposed to having a library that has one of these books in it, having a more diverse library of books in classrooms and homes with little kids.
So great. A lot of so much
when you say that, Robin, we talk about siblings a lot, and I can imagine, like, when my daughter was 5 or 6, like if this was in her classroom and she could pick it up and see like an illustration of a kid with the headphones like her big brother wore, like, oh my gosh, how validating that would be as an experience.
Yeah. Well, I know all of us want to thank you for creating this wonderful book. And it's just great. I'm gonna put up information about how to purchase the book, and then after that, we'll get to the questions. We're gonna, yes, we are gonna share my screen, all of it in its entirety. Yes, okay, here we go. There it is. How can people purchase
All right, Robin, I'll
Kehillah?
let you go into the details. And I see Jody had a specific question about
Yeah.
her order for you
I
too.
saw that question. So you can go right to that website. We did a pre-order, and that pre-order is closed, but we do have a waiting list right now to order physical copies of the book. We did order above what was pre-ordered, so we will have a stock of books to order from. So there are several names on the wait list. Please feel free to add names to it, and we will be shipping them out actually within the next, I expect, week or two. In terms of PDF, yes, if you order, first of all, if you pre-ordered 3 or more copies, automatically you will receive a PDF version of that. And that will be coming out soon before you actually receive the physical copies. We're waiting on one, like, just copyright thing to come through. And once that does, we'll be sending those out. And then there will be, I believe, although it hasn't been finalized yet, an option to purchase just the PDF at a little bit lower cost than the actual physical book. And so, yes, so if you ordered 3 or more, you will get a PDF, and then there will be coming up an option to purchase just the PDF in the future. I'm not exactly sure when that will be, though.
Yeah, and as Robin said, with the wait list, the idea for us, because we're, a small agency, not a whole book publisher, that we'll do periods where we'll sort of have the book, for sale. So definitely, like, we were imagining, in August, when teachers are buying supplies for their classrooms and back to school, we know for sure we'll have another, purchasing period where you'll be able to order your book, have it ready for your classroom, your home, your synagogue, etc. So definitely get your name on the wait list.
Wow, that's great. Do you anticipate at any point having it print on demand through Amazon or, any of the online bookstores?
Well, we set it up as a fundraiser for whole community inclusion. So
Mhm.
that's the challenge with that. We're really so happy with the response to it. And it really, the money that's raised from the book goes directly to support our programming. So likely we'll keep it this way as
Perfect.
opposed to that. And I saw that Ben asked about a teacher's guide, and yes, so in the book itself, it has a few sort of talking points for adults, but we will also create, more extensive conversations that teachers or parents could use.
Yeah, I forgot, Shelly, you were sharing, so I was like, oh, I'll just share that page real quick. But there is a pretty, I mean, it's just one page, but it is pretty packed full of ways that you can use, this page is great for talking about this, if you're an educator, if you're a parent, this kind of language, whatever. So there's some guidance in the book. And I anticipate that we'll sort of beef the website up a little bit with maybe not a full curriculum, but certainly some guidance for teachers.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I have a few questions here from Sharon. And the first one is, how do you specifically plan to get the book or sample copies to camp directors, schools, etc.?
Well,
That was the
up
first
until now,
question.
we hadn't had physical copies to send to anybody. So once, we did certainly send out press releases, and we are utilizing social media. Social media has been a really great vehicle for us in terms of there's lots of people within our small community that are then parts of bigger communities all over the country. So it was sort of surprising and exciting to us at the beginning when we started getting orders from synagogues in Texas and, other, California and Michigan and whatever. I anticipate, depending on how many of our physical copies we have, that we will send a couple to some people to review, to talk about, to look at, to share. We're encouraging people to purchase copies for their synagogues, to purchase copies to donate to their kids' preschool or grandkids' preschool. So part of our marketing plan and getting the word out is to ask people to be sort of book ambassadors, like what you see, talk about it to people, share it with people, so in that way, that's basically our plan.
Well, I want to be an ambassador. Sign me up.
I'll give you
Oh,
a
thank you,
badge and
Shelly.
everything.
That is so
Yeah.
awesome,
So
Shelly. Thank you.
Sharon had another question, and that is, I think it came out of the conversation about how the book is really applicable to any faith, and it just carries those great human values. But she had a question if it made sense to do a version that is not Jewish specific, so that it might be more widely used.
Yeah, it's
And you don't have to
interesting.
answer that now, but you
Yeah,
could.
no, we definitely, it's really interesting. I think someone else asked us that, Robin, and um, you know, we may. I think like right now, it was a lot to just get the book out in the world in the midst of all the other, very busy things we're doing. So I think it feels like, as Robin said, like the next step is just get those physical copies in people's hands. And but it's definitely something for us to consider.
I also like
Sky
to
is the limit.
Yeah.
I also like to think like, we're a Jewish organization. That's what we do, and that's where we come from. But if we can help people figure out or get past that part of it and realize that,
Hmm.
it's beneficial to learn about other cultures and if you're not Jews, what are Jews doing around this sort of thing? Just to sort of bring that into your other kids in your classroom, and then also to realize, I say this all the time and I feel like it gets a little misinterpreted sometimes. I say Jewish values are just values, and I don't mean just values, they're just values. It's very important, but I mean Jewish values are values. There is nothing Jewish about building a community, specifically Jewish. There's nothing specifically Jewish about speaking with kindness. And so if that's the message we can sell, instead of making it not Jewish, if we can sell that message, I'm more interested in doing that personally.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's such good suggestions and important parts of this conversation, and I'm just thrilled that we could bring you both here uh, to talk about in My Kehillah. It's amazing. I want to thank you both so very, very much for being
Oh.
with us. Well, Gabby, you would have been with us anyways, but no.
Shelly, I want to thank you for your support. Really, thank you for being an ambassador and cheerleader, and we're grateful to you.
Well,
Yeah, thank you
I'm
so
sure
much.
there's other people. I'm sure there's other people here who would are cheering you on as we speak. So we're going to turn our sights now to next time on Everyone's Welcome. I'm so excited about this. I think Gabby and I say that about every episode. We're really excited about because we just have so many wonderful, amazing people joining us in conversation. We will be welcoming Ben Dubin and his daughter Rachel Dubin. And Ben is actually on the call today. Hi, Ben. It's great to see you. Rachel, who is deaf, and Ben will discuss inclusion of individuals with disabilities in both faith community and secular community stages. So we really look forward to that. And again, you'll be getting a notice from us from Jewish Learning Venture about the upcoming episode as always. So it's going to be Thursday, April 22nd, and I put all the times up here so we can be inclusive of where everyone lives. Speaking of books, Gabby and I would love, love, love it if you'd take a look. Head on over to Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Kindle Unlimited, Target.com, and any place that you purchase your books online. And check out our books, Little Gate Crasher, The Life and Photos of Mace Bugan that Gabby has written about her uncle. Another amazing book, beautifully written. And my book, From Longing to Belonging, a practical guide to including people with disabilities and mental health conditions in your faith community. So just kind of more further. One more slide, I think. Yep. This is how you can reach us. Email. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. We're kind of all over the place. And love to hear your suggestions for the show and feedback. And as always, uh, again, thank you so much to Gabby and Robin for being with us today. And a big bravo, brava. I don't know what the plural of bravo is. So we'll go with bravi, bravi for this amazing venture, beautiful venture. And big thanks to everyone who joined us today. We're so glad you're here. And we always end with please tell your friends and colleagues about everyone's welcome. Have them join us. Now we'll be on Facebook Live. So again, another place to find us. And just want to thank you again. And our last comment, of course, is to stay safe and be well and enjoy the month of April. So we'll see you in 2 weeks from today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
Everybody, thank you.